Hello everybody, my name is Sabne Raznik, and this is the channel on YouTube where I do what I call mini readings, which is usually just one poem, sometimes my work and sometimes other people's, whatever strikes my fancy. It's hot. I just noticed you can tell in the video. It's summertime. I got all my fans on. My last video, I didn't express myself clearly. I was having trouble finding my words and stuff, and I'm sure there was plenty there that a person could take the wrong way because I was having trouble. So I thought I would put up a new one really fast, or as fast as I could after that, and try to redeem myself. And I've always wanted to read Akhmatova's Requiem on here. I don't know if I have before. I don't think I have, because I always had trouble finding it online for a while. It just, I don't know. I couldn't find it. I don't know if it was still under copyright until recently or not. Probably, because I think like James Joyce's Ulysses just became public domain, and so that was the 20s. So I'm thinking it probably just became public domain. Like back in January, they had like a huge release of materials that are now public domain finally under the U.S. copyright laws. So the internet has absolutely loved it. I have absolutely loved it. A lot more free access to things, you know. I mean, I believe in copyright. How else are writers going to be able to pay their bills, you know? And when you work so hard on something and you literally put blood, sweat, tears, time, lack of sleep, you name it, into something. So much emotion. It's a creative endeavor, such as writing a book, is a lot like having a baby. It's a long-term project, and it takes a lot out of you. And eventually, of course, it's grown as far as what you can do with it. It's also like a baby in the sense that you may start out with an idea of what you want it to be like, but because it becomes its own thing. The book or whatever is always bigger than the person who wrote it. So much bigger, because it has a life of its own. And then whenever it's grown enough that you've done everything you can with it, you release it into the world, publish it, whatever. Then it grows completely separate from you, and you never know what it's going to become after that. And it's so I enjoy watching things that artists put out grow over time. For instance, U2's Sunday Bloody Sunday it's a completely different song than it was when they first put it out, and it has been used in so many different ways by them and by other people. Definitely took on a life of its own. The same thing with Bullet the Blue Sky, and you can pretty much say that of any creative work that any artist put out. You know, it's always bigger than you. Even when you're writing it, you're like, oh my goodness, this didn't come out of me. How could this come out of me? It's so much better than me. It's a humbling experience, very humbling. And then you've got to go out and read, and people are like, oh, you're so wonderful because you did this thing. And you're like, actually, kind of did itself. I'm a firm believer in getting out of the way, and letting things do things for themselves. Because a lot of your best works come when you take the consciousness out of it. You know what I mean? Whenever you let it just get out of its way. Just get out of its way, and then you get your best work. Whenever you're trying really hard to do a specific thing, and you want it to turn out a certain way or follow a certain outline, it never works. That's whenever you end up with like nursery rhymes and greeting card stuff. Uh, so that was going somewhere. See, I'm doing the same thing I did last video. But this release of stuff into the public domain has been a lot of fun. And I think that might be why I can find this poem now online, and I couldn't before. I used to have it in an anthology of world poetry, but that was whenever I was a teenager. I think I was still in high school, so early teens, like 14 or 15. And I do occasionally have to cull my books, you know, like I go and donate them to the library every so often, because I don't care how many bookshelves you build me, I will fill them up and then start going, I got nowhere to put books. So every once in a while I got to go through them and get rid of some, you know, not get rid of, donate them. I very rarely just throw away a book. If I throw away a book, then it's really bad and should never have been written. That does happen. And then books do get lost over time too. When you move from one place to another or whatever, life is a turbulent thing. And so who knows what happened to that book. But, so I've been waiting for it to show up here, and here it is. So now we're going to read Akhmatova's Requiem. This poem from the time that I was... Hey! No! No! Leave Mommy's books alone, please. Go outside. No? No. Sorry. There's a new bookshelf over there that she can reach when she's on her rope for outside, and I think she just discovered it. You know, it's a new thing, so she's curious. Leave it alone. Good girl, yeah. See, she's just being curious. She about pulled one poem off the bookshelf, though. I'm going to have to go fix it after I'm done with this video. That's my dog, Ada. She's a Great Dane, and there's no such thing as putting up anything where she can, high enough where she can't reach it, because she's taller than me when she stays on her back feet, like by a couple feet, because I'm a little short person. And I can't stand on my tippy toes. My ankles don't move like that, so that makes me shorter too. Anyway, this poem always meant a lot to me. I had kind of a rough childhood, and so I really related to this poem. Also, I grew up with the Holocaust very present in my psyche, because it was very important to my grandparents to teach me about it when I was very young, probably younger than a child should be exposed to such things. They had, I think I've mentioned this on the channel before, they had a photo album of my great-grandfather who landed on the shores of Normandy, marched across Europe, and liberated Dachau, and he took pictures of Dachau the way it was when he found it. Very graphic, some of them. They were in black and white, but all the same. And they were in this photo album. After my grandparents died, we never did find that photo. We did find one or two photos that had been like scanned and then printed, but we never found the whole photo album. So I'm wondering if maybe my grandparents donated it to a Holocaust museum before they died. So yeah, it was always very present in my mind, and I've always, ever since they first showed me that photo album, I've been kind of, I guess obsessed would be the wrong word, but it's definitely a strong interest of mine. I'm always watching documentaries and things like that, and especially trying to understand how it could happen, like the lead up to it. And so Requiem was written about the gulags in Russia, Soviet Russia, because if they didn't just go around rescuing, they didn't just see, sorry, I don't know what's up with me, but They didn't just go around arresting poets and intelligentsia and literati just to do it. But quite a number of poets ended up in the gulags, and because usually poets are, when there's a regime that's, how do I want to put this? Restrictive, maybe a little too much. Depends on your culture, but usually when there's a government that's has things like gulags, the poets are the ones that speak against it, so they end up in those places. And so I think this is the poem she wrote, where there's a part in here where she's standing in line. This might be the poem. She's standing in line at the gulag to visit either her husband or her son. And that image always stood out to me, standing in the line with the other women, waiting for just a glimpse, We'll see if this is the one I'm thinking it is. So, I always really, really loved this poem. Anyway, I'll get to it. I know I can go on and on. Especially when I'm having trouble finding my words. I seem to talk more, I guess because I'm trying to talk until I find my way around to what I'm actually trying to say, because it's not coming out. Hopefully I'll get past this spell. I don't know what's causing it. Requiem, a poem by Akhmatova. Oh yeah, and I found this on poemhunter.com in case you're interested. Unfortunately, it's one of those sites that are not really responsive to different screen sizes, it appears, and so it's going to be a bit awkward for me to read because there's no indentation whatsoever. It's like the sentences are all crammed up against the side of the screens. But I'm going to do my best. Requiem, poem by Akhmatova. Not under foreign skies, nor under foreign wings protected, I shared all this with my own people, there, where misfortune had abandoned us, 1961. Instead of a preface. During the frightening years of the Yezhov terror, I spent 17 months waiting in prison queues in Leningrad. One day, somehow, someone picked me out. On that occasion, there was a woman standing behind me, her lips blue with cold, who, of course, had never in her life heard my name. Jolted out of the torpor characteristic of all of us, she said into my ear, everyone whispered there, "Could one ever describe this?" And I answered, "I can." It was then that something like a smile slid across what had previously been just a face. The 1st of April in the year 1957, Leningrad. Dedication. Mountains fall before this grief. A mighty river stops its flow, but prison doors stay firmly bolted, shutting off the convict burrows in an anguish close to death. Fresh winds softly blow for someone. Gentle sunsets warm them through. We don't know this. We are everywhere the same, listening to the scrape and turn of hateful keys and the heavy tread of marching soldiers, waking early as if for early mass, walking through the capital, run wild, gone to seed we'd meet. The dead, lifeless. The sun lower each day. The neva mistier, but hope still sings forever in the distance. The verdict. Immediately a flood of tears, followed by a total isolation, as if a beating heart is painfully ripped out or thumped. She lies there brutally laid out, but she still manages to walk hesitantly alone. Where are you, my unwilling friends, captives of my 2 satanic years? What miracle do you see in a Siberian blizzard? What shimmering mirage around the circle of the moon? I send each one of you my salutation and farewell. March 1940. Introduction or prelude. It happened like this, when only the dead were smiling, glad of their release, that Leningrad hung around its prisons like a worthless emblem flapping its peace. Shrill and sharp, the steam whistles sang short songs of farewell to the ranks of convicted, demented by suffering as they in regiments walked along. Stars of death stood over us, as innocent Russia squirmed under the blood-spattered boots and tires of the Black Marias. You were taken away at dawn. I followed you as one does when a corpse is being removed. Children were crying in the darkened house. A candle flared, illuminating the Mother of God. The cold of an icon was on your lips, a death-cold sweat on your brow. I will never forget this. I will gather to wail with the wives of the murdered Streltsky, inconsolably beneath the Kremlin towers. 1935, autumn, Moscow. Silent flows the river dawn. A yellow moon looks quietly on, swanking about, the cap askew. It sees through the window a shadow of you, gravely ill. All alone, the moon sees a woman lying at home. Her son is in jail. Her husband is dead. Say a prayer for her instead. It isn't me. Someone else is suffering. I couldn't. Not like this. Everything that has happened, cover it with a black cloth. Then let the torches be removed. Night. Giggling, poking fun, everyone's darling, the carefree center of Tsarskoye Selo. If only you could have foreseen what life would do with you, that you would stand parcel in hand beneath the crosses, 300th in line, burning the New Year's ice with your hot tears. Back and forth the prison poplar sways, with not a sound. How many innocent, blameless lives are being taken away? 1938. For 17 months, I have been screaming, calling you home. I've thrown myself at the feet of butchers for you, my son and my horror. Everything has become muddled forever. I can no longer distinguish who is an animal, who is a person, and how long the wait can be for an execution. There are now only dusty flowers, the chinking of the thurible, tracks from somewhere into nowhere, and staring me in the face and threatening me with swift annihilation, an enormous star. 1939. Weeks fly lightly by. Even so, I cannot understand what has arisen. How, my son, into your prison, white nights stare so brilliantly. Now once more they burn, eyes that focus like a hawk, and upon your cross the talk is again of death. 1939, spring. The verdict. The word landed with a stony thud onto my still beating breast. Never mind, I was prepared. I will manage with the rest. I have a lot of work to do. I need to slaughter memory, turn my living soul to stone, then teach myself to live again. But how? The hot summer rustles like a carnival outside my window. I have long had this premonition of a bright day and a deserted house. 22nd of June, 1939. To death. You will come anyway, so why not now? I wait for you. Things have become too hard. I have turned out the lights and opened the door for you, so simple and so wonderful. Assume whatever shape you wish. Burst in like a shell of noxious gas. Creep up on me like a practiced bandit with a heavy weapon. Poison me if you want, with a typhoid exhalation, or with a simple tale prepared by you and known by all to the point of nausea. Take me before the commander of the Blue Caps and let me glimpse the house administrator's terrified white face. I don't care anymore. The river Yenisei swirls on. The pole star blazes. The blue spark of those much-loved eyes close over and cover the final floor. 19th of August, 1939. Madness with its wings has covered half my soul. It feeds me fiery wine and lures me into the abyss. That's when I understand, while listening to my alien delirium, that I must hand the victory to it. However much I nag, however much I beg, it will not let me take one single thing away. Not my son's frightening eyes, a suffering set in stone, or prison visiting hours, or days that end in storms, nor the sweet coolness of a hand. nor the light distant sound of final comforting words. 14th of May, 1940. Crucifixion. Weep not for me, mother. I am alive in my grave. A choir of angels glorified the greatest hour. The heavens melted into flames. To his father he said, Why hast thou forsaken me? But to his mother, Weep not for me. 1940. Magdalena smote herself and wept. The favorite disciple turned to stone, but there, where the mother stood silent, not one person dared to look. 1943. Epilogue. I have learned how faces fall, how terror can escape from lowered eyes, how suffering can etch cruel pages of cuneiform like marks upon the cheeks. I know how dark and ash-blonde strands of hair can suddenly turn white. I've learned to recognize the fading smiles upon submissive lips, the trembling fear inside a hollow laugh. That's why I pray not for myself, but all of you who stood there with me through fiercest cold and scorching July heat under a towering, completely blind red wall. The hour has come to remember the dead. I see you. I hear you. I feel you. The one who resisted the long drag to the open window. The one who could no longer feel the kick of familiar soul beneath her feet. The one who with a sudden flick of her head replied, I arrive here as if I've come home. I'd like to name you all by name, but the list has been removed and there is nowhere else to look, so I have woven you this wide shroud out of the humble words I overheard you use. Everywhere, forever and always, I will never forget one single thing, even in new grief. Even if they clamp shut my tormented mouth, through which 100 million people scream. That's how I wish them to remember me when I am dead, on the eve of my remembrance day. If someone someday in this country decides to raise a memorial to me, I give my consent to this festivity, but only on this condition. Do not build it by the sea where I was born. I have severed my last ties with the sea. Nor in the Tsar's Park by the hollowed stump, where an inconsolable shadow looks for me. Build it here, where I stood for 300 hours and no one slid open the bolt. Listen, even in blissful death I fear that I will forget the Black Marias. Forget how hatefully the door slammed and an old woman howled like a wounded beast. Let the thawing ice flow like tears from my immovable bronze eyelids, and let the prison dove coo in the distance while ships sail quietly along the river. March 1940. There you go. Is that not like the most powerful thing you've ever read? And of course, I relate to a mother's grief. Maybe not in those circumstances, but childhood cancer is torturous too. And I lost my nephew to that, so. But that came after my first connection with this poem. I don't know exactly what caused me to connect to it to begin with, but maybe it's one of those you can't help but connect to, right? Even before you have the life experience to really understand it. I hope you enjoyed that, and have a look through the rest of the channel. There's, last time I said over 100, but I didn't really look. There's actually like, I think this is the 89th video that will be on this channel. So go back through and look, because that means there's 89 poems to be looked at. And I tried to conclude, first I started out just doing my own work, but when I branched out into sharing other people's work, and I think my first impulse to do that was whenever I wanted to read Station Island by Seamus Heaney in honor of his death. When I started doing that, I'm trying to include poems from as many cultures as I can, in one way or another. And if I'm blessed to live long enough, and if YouTube is around long enough, maybe I'll achieve it. I've always been a huge fan of world poetry. Anyway, I hope you have a beautiful day. Summer will soon be over, so go out and enjoy it. Make sure you go out. So what if it's hot? Your body acclimates to heat. Go out there and enjoy it, because in just a couple months you'll be stuck indoors till March or April. Just saying. Depending on, how far north or south you live. Some of you are stuck indoors till like almost mid-May, I think. So don't let the moment pass you by. Summer is too short. I thought I heard her getting into stuff again. I'm just getting eyeballs on her. Anyway, it's time for us to eat lunch. And I hope you have a good day. Thank you.